Santi, good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Viviana and I would like to welcome back our regular listeners and also welcome any new listeners. Also, be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at Italian Radio Hour and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on any past video interviews. Vorrei dare il benvenuto ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo, grazie per essere con noi anche oggi mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana. Well, today we're traveling through Italy in a way that most tourists never do. Not through famous landmarks or crowded attractions, but through the heart and soul of local communities. Italy's Sagre, festivals, historic celebrations, religious processions, and food traditions. Our guest is Katerina Ferrara, travel writer, podcaster, and author of the acclaimed Ultimate Festival and Travel Guide series. For more than 25 years, Katerina has explored Italy one festival at a time, documenting everything from centuries-old religious celebrations and medieval reenactments to truffle fairs, wine festivals, and village sagre that preserve traditions passed down through generations. Through her books, podcasts, and travels, Katerina helps visitors experience an Italy that exists far beyond Rome, Venice, and Florence. An Italy where entire towns come alive to celebrate their history, their food, their saints, and their identity. So get a notepad because Katerina is going to give us some great advice, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Parli italiano? Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring in person or online to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at istitutomondoitaliano.org. Caterina, good afternoon. It's so great to have you. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Viviana. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, you are touching one of my favorite topics, the expression to discover Italy, the unbeaten, the untraveled road, or it's always so vague. And when we use the word Sagre, a whole world opens in front of us. And for those of you that might hear this word for the first time, S-A-G-R-E, let's have Caterina explain to us what a Sagra is.
Yes, we would generally call it a food festival, but it's so much more because a food festival in Italy where you're celebrating the local chestnut also includes a procession, perhaps people in medieval dress, the local band or tamburi, the drum group, maybe a medieval reenactment. It's not just food, it's also a celebration of the town and the culture. And it's the time, one time a year where the locals come together to really celebrate their roots and celebrate the agriculture or their favorite saint, their patron saint in town.
So, Caterina, tell us what is your connection to Italy? I wonder if your last name Ferrara has something to do with it,
Yes.
and also when did, perhaps you might remember your first saga or festival that you attended that sparked then this idea for the amazing series that you have that focus on the different regions and cities.
Yeah, so eventually there'll be 20 guides, one for each of the 20 regions of Italy. But I'm Italian, I speak Italian, but I like to hear it. So in the morning, I watch a TV show called Di Buon Mattino. It's on TV 2000. And every morning they wake up and they talk about the weather and all of the local news, but they also go to a festa or a sagra. And so I started seeing these every single day and seeing the special foods that are only available at that festival on that day, something, special created for their patron saint that's certainly tied to the festival. And every year for several years, I saw the Infuriata of Noto. Noto is in the Val di Noto in Sicily. And the Infuriata there is very famous. It's a flower festival, but it's a flower art festival. So there's a street in the center of town that's kind of up a hill, and each year they have a different theme, and they decorate with flower petals, seeds. They create art on the street that only lasts 48 hours, and it is stunning, absolutely stunning. Local artists come up with the plans, and it's just incredible. And you buy a ticket; it's a minimal cost. to get on the street. It's the tickets are more about scheduling time, so it's not a complete madhouse because it's a narrow street and only so many people can walk up and get good photographs of the beautifully colored flowers. And so that was my first target. I thought I have to go see this in person. I watched them making the art on the street on the TV show. I saw how it all came together, and I said we have to go see this. Well, one of the things I quickly discovered is that if you don't speak Italian, it's very hard to figure out how to get to these festivals in Sagre. And so I thought I'm going to have to write a book to document how people can visit Sicily. There are thousands of festivals in Sicily. And when I first started writing, I didn't really know what I was doing. And the book came out to be 880 pages. Now, the maximum that Amazon will print is 550. So certainly there'll be a book two for Sicily. But there's so much treasure around these festivals and traditions. And I just absolutely fell in love with the idea of including them. And one of the things is you can visit 10 sites in a town, churches, the Palazzo Comunale, but when you go to a festival and you experience that town at its most vibrant, and the locals are so proud of their traditions, and the tamburi are out and the drums are reverberating off the Baroque architecture. I mean, it just gives me goosebumps. It is absolutely incredible. It is such joy. And so I really want to encourage people to include these. And so that was the idea for the Ultimate Festival and Travel Guides, which include all the normal travel guide things, walking tours, accommodations, restaurants, the town overview, but also the important dates and the things you need to know about the traditions of the festival. And I also say, do you need to stay 2 days, 4 days? What do I recommend to get there and really enjoy the festival? And also what's around nearby sites, things to see while you're in town.
I totally agree with you because you mentioned the vibrancy of the town, that sense of pride, because whether they're wearing medieval costumes that have been passed down from generation to generation, and now involves also the youth, to indeed a product that is a food product that is at its peak, whether it's strawberries or others, is just amazing. And then also our students at Mondo Italiano, they're always looking for opportunities to mingle with the locals. And when you have these long, long tables where you're sitting elbow to elbow with an Italian family and so forth, you become part of that town as well. So when you started to attend this Sagre, what surprised you the most?
Just how welcoming the locals are. They say, "How did you hear about this?" It's such a local tradition. They don't expect a visitor to come, and you don't hear any English. It's all just locals. The 10-year-olds are running around the piazza. There's dogs with medieval costumes, and it's just such a great time to be in town. Everybody is out, and they're out until midnight, and just celebrating, dancing, finding the special festival foods. And also, you'll see the mayor and the police chief and just the whole town coming together. It's a really joyful moment for the town.
So, how about we take our listeners on a journey to Italy through some of your favorite festivals? And let's start from the north. How about Veneto and Lake Garda? So, you love Lake Garda.
Yes.
So, what makes the festivals of Lake Garda so special?
Yes, I do love Lake Garda. It's my favorite lake. I know everyone talks about Lake Como and it's probably the most famous, but Lake Garda it's the largest lake. It's absolutely stunning. In the north, it looks like the lake is in the middle of the Alps because the Dolomite Mountains come down from the north. And in the south, you've got olive groves and you've also got vineyards. And so Lake Garda is known for both wine and olive oil, which are two of the Sagre we're going to visit today. On Lake Garda in the north, you've got towns like Malcesine. My son did paragliding off the mountain. There's a lot of hiking, mountain activities, cyclists, but also the north of the lake is really well known for sailing. There's actually a part of the lake where there's no motorized boats, and it's just safe for those who want to either learn sailing or want to sail because of the way the wind comes down off the mountains there. And then in the south, you've got towns like Sirmione, which is a very famous fortress town. It's a Scalageri castle. The Verona family, Scalageri, had their fortresses here at Malcesine and also at Sirmione. But the town I want to mention today is very famous for wine, and that is Bardolino. So Bardolino hosts one of Lake Garda's biggest wine events called the Palio di Chiaretto. And this wine is a rosé wine that's grown here in the area. And it's a great time to be in town with the food and the wine. It's not just about the wine. There's musicians, there's people in medieval dress. The whole town is coming out and you get to walk along the lakeside with this local wine that they're very proud of producing. And this festival happens each year. It's actually chapter 22 in my Venice book. It happens each year in the summer, so it's a great time. You may already, be in town in that at that time of year. But Bardolino is also known for its olive oil festival, which takes place in November. And so this is where you can taste the fresh pressed olive oil, all of the special foods, the local producers, all that they've produced, and another way to experience the agricultural traditions of the lake that have made this area continuously populated throughout time is to have this agriculture in the area. So it's a wonderful, wonderful place to visit. Another town I will mention on Lake Garda is Peschiera del Garda. And the reason I want to mention that town is because it has a really easy train connection to Milan. It's about an hour from Milan. It's 15 minutes by train from Verona. So Peschiera del Garda is a town that you can visit and not have to rent a car, which is really very convenient for travelers. Peschiera has a different wine festival each year. It's called the Garda Wine Festival. And one of the things I love about Peschiera del Garda is that it was actually a Venetian fortress. And so it's got star-shaped defensive walls. To get into town, I love this. You have to go over the moat and into the medieval gate. It was part of the Venetian Republic, also part of the Austrian Empire. And it's just a gorgeous town. It's got canals, and we really enjoyed at sunset, the way the sun sets over the canals there and the fortifications. It's absolutely beautiful. So another place you can visit for a wine festival, and this one is in late September, early October.
Wonderful. So how do wine festivals different from food festivals?
Well,
And
they're
what's the
all,
other?
of course, food, there's food at all the
I would
festivals in
assume
Italy.
there is no one without the other.
Right, exactly. But with the wine, it's also about talking to the producers who make the wine, who grow the grapes, and just learning more about the wine of the area and their proud traditions, and the fact that they've got these DOP, these special wines and special grapes in Italy. They're very proud.
Wonderful. So how about we move a little bit central? We are talking about the lungs of Italy, which is Umbria, the Umbria region. And you have written about the truffle festivals, again, olive oil celebrations and agricultural traditions. So why do these festivals matter beyond the food itself?
Umbria is very known for their truffles. And actually, I joke that when you go to Umbria, you can find truffles on everything. It seems like truffles on your eggs, truffles on your pasta. And it's just something that they have, very special truffle, and they're very proud of it. And I also wanted to talk about here in Umbria, Foligno, because Foligno is a town.
Beautiful.
I actually have a friend from Foligno, and I've known her for years, but I hadn't been to her festival. And she's been talking about their festival, to me for years. So I was very excited to go, and it's called the Quintana of Foligno, and it's a medieval joust.
Mhm.
And so it's a really unique festival. Now, Foligno is about 15 minutes from Assisi. It's very well connected by train. It's about 30 minutes from Perugia, which is the capital of Umbria. And Foligno prospered for centuries because it was a very important part of the Papal States during the Middle Ages and Renaissance. And when we went, I was actually so surprised. I know this is terrible, but they have this palazzo, the Palazzo Trinci, and it's of the Trinci family who were rulers in the 14th and 15th centuries. I expected sort of a provincial museum. I thought we needed an hour there. They have such an incredible collection of medieval Renaissance art. The palace is incredible. There's frescoes, decorated halls. The basement is a Roman fortification. And it was terrible because I just expected it to sort of be, this little town has this, it was incredible. And so I think you can find these treasures in the small towns, and you're literally the only visitor there from outside of Italy, maybe outside of Umbria. And they've preserved this history in such an incredible way. Now, their Quintana is this joust that happens 2 times a year in June and September. and really it's neighborhoods competing against each other, the noble districts. So it's residents in their Baroque costumes, musicians, flag throwers, banquets, colorful parades, and the town is very alive even in the winter, but it's especially alive during its quintana. And these riders on the horses, the course is very demanding, and they have to instead of a true joust where they're throwing each other off their horses, they have to capture rings that get smaller in size as they're racing through the course. And so each of the quarters, each of the neighborhoods is, competing against the other one. And it's just, again, an incredible time to be a part of that neighborhood tradition. The Quintana is actually in my Umbria book. It's chapter 14, and it goes through the town and its history as well as how to get to this festival. That book also includes Assisi, of course, a very important town in Umbria, Perugia, Spoleto, which is probably my favorite town in all of Umbria, Gubbio, Orvieto, and more. So yeah, that Quintana, I thought I wanted to mention that one. Of course, there's food and drink, but the joust is kind of interesting too, since it's been happening since the 1700s.
Yes, I'm gonna try to see if I can find some videos, short videos, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of La Sartiglia in Sardinia because of the rings, but also in Arezzo, they have also these wooden structures with the rings, and the
Yes.
knights have to. So, and again, it is an amazing opportunity to also look at the medieval costumes and mingle with the local people. Now, as far as the food related Sagre, you mentioned that these Sagre typically these festivals follow the agricultural calendar then rather than fixed dates. So, what does that tell us about Italy's relationship with the land?
Yes, it's very true. So if you think about like the almond blossom festival that happens every year in Agrigento in Sicily, they know when the almonds are going to blossom, but they aren't going to always blossom on February 13th. So the festival does move. And so one of the things I talk about in my guide is those movable festivals and how to figure out when they are being celebrated, because each year it may be a little bit different, depending on how cold the winter is and when those flowers are going to be in bloom. So yeah, it really does show that relationship. And it's said that there are over 20,000 Sagre in Italy. And so when you think about 20,000, a lot of towns have that very special relationship, and they celebrate that, whether it's the truffle, the olive, the wine of that area each year. And we're going to talk about the cherry festival when we get to Puglia.
Absolutely. So let's get to my home region, Lazio. And there is a special area that I think you and I enjoy equally, which is the region di Castelli Romani, which is a train ride. And if you have a car, you can potentially just see more things and move around, hop around. So describe for our listeners what this area represents, where is it located, and what makes it such a festival-rich region.
Yeah, so the Castelli Romani is since Roman times where the emperors escaped to get away from the heat in Rome. So you think about Rome as a town of stone. They would leave and go out into the hills called the Castelli Romani. And the Castelli Romani is a 17 hill towns. They're very close together, but also very close to Rome. So maybe a 30-minute train ride to get there. Some of the towns you do need a car, just depending. But it's an incredible area. And still today, Romans escape to the Castelli Romani and often have a small house that maybe was passed down through the family that's in those hills. In towns like Nemi, where they have the incredible strawberry festival and their wild strawberries of Nemi, or Genzano di Roma, where they started the Infuriata. The first Infuriata was there, and it's actually that festival is on Corpus Christi, which is always about now, about this time of year in the summer. So yeah, there's a lot of incredible traditions in the Castelli Romani. And I wanted to specifically talk about Tivoli, because Tivoli is sort of a popular get out of Rome for a day town. It's easy to get to by train, maybe 40 minutes on the train. And Tivoli has an incredible Roman villa. Hadrian's Villa is there. And this was an imperial retreat that included an enormous complex of baths, hundreds of fountains, waterfalls, spectacular views on the Roman countryside, and then gardens. But there's also a more modern villa here, the Villa d'Este, which is a 16th century palace with gardens, fountains, waterfalls, and views. And so you can visit both of these sites when you're in town. And then also, if you're in town around August 10th, you can visit with them for their most important festival, which is their patron saint festival, San Lorenzo, or the Feast of Saint Lawrence. And that's going to be a combination of, religious devotion, community celebrations, processions, music, and gatherings that bring the town together to honor their patron saint. Now, one of the things I like to tell travelers is you don't have to be Catholic to come for the Feast of St. Lawrence. All are truly welcome. It is a festival, it's a tradition, a community tradition, as well as a religious tradition. So I'm not saying that you have to go to Mass, but it's a great time to be in town because all of the locals come back for their patron saint's day, no matter where they escape to in Italy for work. They always come back to dedicate a day to their patron and savior in town. And so these incredible towns, another town of the Castelli Romani is Castel Gandolfo, known for its Peach Festival. And Castel Gandolfo is famous because the papal palace is there. So for centuries, the popes have also escaped to the Castelli Romani in order to get away from the summer heat. And the reason we found the Castelli Romani and Castel Gandolfo was we came when Pope Benedict was Pope in July, and we wanted to go to his audience. And the nuns who you write to ask permission said, oh, he's on his vacation home, in July. And we said, well, where is that? Oh, it's just, outside of Rome. And so we went out and we got to go inside the papal palace with maybe 200 people to be there for this audience. He came out on the balcony at Castel Gandolfo, absolutely stunning town, very small town, but stunning over the lake, Lago Albano there, and it's incredible. So I really, that's another town that's easy to get to and just absolutely gorgeous. So I recommend that one in their Peach Festival. One of the traditions is always to give a box of peaches to the Pope. So maybe you could be there for that.
I was actually my father was a doctor to the Vatican in the summer state, so we did get a chance when I was a little girl to attend mass and being this close to the Pope. So Castel Gandolfo was always very. But another hospital that my dad worked at was in Aricia, and Aricia is going to make our mouth water. With their
or the
porchetta.
porchetta. Yes, and they have a porchetta festival, of course, in Aricia, another fabulous town. Porchetta, for those who don't know, is pork that they kind of beat to be flat, and then they put seasonings like rosemary, and then they roll it up and bake it until it's tender and succulent. Absolutely delicious. You can have it as a sandwich or just as a pile of meat, and it's really, really very good.
And then also it's protected. So if the animals are grown in a certain way, they're deboned in a certain way, there is also a protection. So there is a great sense of pride in addition to being delicious. And mostly if you're in Rome and you might find a food truck that sells panino con la porchetta, there is a good chance, a 95% chance that porchetta will come from Aricia, because that's really the place that is famous for. Well, while you're making our mouth watering with talk about porchetta, we're going to take just a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about Puglia. So don't go anywhere.
Do you love Italian food? Want to learn the secrets of homemade pasta, sauces, and traditional recipes, just like Nana used to make? At Mondo Italiano, our authentic Italian cooking classes bring the taste of Italy right to Pittsburgh. From fresh pasta to regional specialties, every class is a delicious journey through Italy's culinary traditions. Spots fill quickly, so reserve your seat today. Call us at 412-478-2681 or find us online. Mondo Italiano, where Italy comes alive one dish at a time.
Un caffè, per favore. For more than 35 years, Pittsburgh has started its mornings with La Prima Espresso. From freshly roasted beans from around the world to the perfect espresso or cappuccino, every cup is crafted with care. Stop by and enjoy the warmth of our baristas and familiar faces, or bring the taste of Italy home. Order online today at laprima.com. La Prima Espresso, Pittsburgh's coffee. So we are back with Katerina Ferrara. We're talking about Sagre, which are usually food festivals, wine festivals. Sometimes we have patron saints being celebrated. We have already covered some grounds because from the north of Veneto and Lake Garda, we moved to Umbria and then Lazio, but we still have to explore two regions that are the next one is particularly dear to me. Again, this is a family region, and we're talking about Puglia. And so here in Puglia, we see the atmosphere changes dramatically. So and we see a lot of religious celebrations here. So describe maybe any of the celebrations that you have attended and what made them unique to you or to the traveler.
Yes, Puglia, of course, is the heel of Italy's boot. And so we're moving south here, and we're also moving to the east coast of Sicily, of Italy, the east coast of Italy, where you see both Byzantine influences as well as Norman, Swabian, and Spanish. And because we've moved over to the Byzantine side, we should talk about Bari, which is the capital of Puglia, of the region. And its historic center, called Bari Vecchia, is known for being narrow streets that would confuse the pirates. Orecchietti, there's a street where the ladies still make the little orecchietti, meaning, the little ears, pasta. And of course, there's an Orecchietti festival. You can't miss that. But the one festival I want to talk about is dedicated to San Nicola.
Yes.
Saint Nicholas is, of course, to us, Santa Claus, but he's one of the most important saints in both the Eastern and Western religions. So when the Eastern Orthodox broke off, we still were both celebrating Saint Nicholas. And the construction of the basilica here, dedicated to Saint Nicholas, that holds its relics, was started in 1087 when the relics arrived from Istanbul to Bari. The crypt was created by 1089, and that church, the basilica, was finished by 1197. So this has stood as a pilgrimage site for those who have a patron of San Nicola. And there's also in town a really beautiful Norman Swabian castle that was started, Roger II of Sicily started the castle on that site, the fortress, in 1131. So a lot of history. Bari is also seafront. So from your hotel room window, you may have views of Bari and the seafront there. They've got a great walking path all the way up that seaside. So if you're a walker or a runner or want to get on a bike for some exercise in the morning, it's a great place to visit. Saint Nicholas was a 4th century bishop from Myra, which is present-day Turkey, and he was known for caring for the poor. And their festival happens 2 times a year. In the summer, they have this really incredible procession on the water, which I love. So it's a maritime procession. They move San Nicola, they carry him, they bring him to the boat, and then all of these boats, decorated boats, move along the waterfront, and thousands have gathered along the harbor to watch the procession of the city's patron saint. And it's got international significance, and it's just absolutely an incredible destination in Puglia. It's obviously the capital, easy to get to. It's a 4-hour train ride. They've got a new train straight to Rome, so that's easy. And then once you're in Bari, you've got a lot of connections there along the coast. So it's a great town to visit.
Yes, and that brings also some childhood memories of us going and visit our grandparents for Easter, and then again there the processions with the Madonna, the Christ, the drums, and so forth. Very dramatic, I have to say.
Yes, very emotional and very dramatic. Yes. Yes.
Okay, well, let's change colors and flavors. Let's go to Sicily. Sicily sometimes feels like an entire world unto itself. So what makes Sicilian festivals different from those in the rest of Italy, in your opinion?
Yeah, for me, Sicily and their festivals, they're just larger than life. When you first think about Sicily and the festivals, you might think about St. Agatha in Catania. That's Europe's, not just Italy's, but Europe's largest festival. It's 1 million people that come to town to celebrate St. Agatha there. And they've been doing that since about the year 300. So you've got 1700 years of this tradition. And one of my favorite parts of that celebration is, they're carrying this heavy statue and they've carried it for almost 24 hours around town. And then at the end, they have to run uphill to arrive back at the cathedral, and people are waiting and waiting because you don't know when they're going to come, and you're in position. And then when they start running up, the crowd just goes completely wild. And it's just an absolutely pure joy moment of having St. Agatha return to the center. But also, I want to mention St. Lucy. And St. Lucy is Syracuse's patron. And St. Lucy and that festival happens in December. And Lucy, Santa Lucia, that would mean light. And this festival is held on the small island of Ortigia that's connected to Syracuse. But when you go to Ortigia, it really feels like you're traveling, 2,000 years into the past. There's a Duomo there. Piazza Duomo is absolutely stunning. But the cathedral itself is extraordinary because they built the cathedral directly on the Greek temple dedicated to Athena. So when you're inside the cathedral, the columns of that Greek temple are still there. And it's an incredible spot to visit. And their festival is another one where the whole town comes out to celebrate St. Lucy. St. Lucy was a 3rd century saint, and she's really one of the most revered Christian martyrs in the religion, but also in Sicily. So a lot of towns will have that Festa di Santa Lucia, but the most important one is in December on the 13th in Syracuse. And I think it's interesting that Catholic Church chose December 13th because on their calendar, that was the shortest day of the year, the winter solstice. It's not exactly equivalent today because we have a little more science in our calendar. But back then it was the darkest day of the year. So they chose that for St. Lucy, the saint of light and eyes, to be that day. So we could celebrate that darkest day with our bright and beautiful saint. So it's a really incredible festival. And honestly, Syracuse is a town that deserves a few days because it's got the Greek theater, it's got a beautiful center of town, and then it's also a great place to go on a boat ride because there's caves around underneath the city. So it's a beautiful, beautiful spot. One of my favorite in Italy, certainly.
So we actually still looking at the picture of Santa Agatha.
Oh, yes.
And it has also a food tradition, but what have you captured? Why are the Sicilians so attached to Santa Agatha? There are a couple of historical events, and
Yes, she
we
has
can talk
certainly
about this
saved
feat.
Catania, from a lava flow coming their way. She saved them. She stopped the lava flow so it didn't ruin the city. So there are historical miracles associated with her. Of course, in the picture here, you see her breasts were removed. St. Peter arrived, an image of St. Peter arrived and reattached them. But that is one of the festival foods, is the pastry that's made in the shape of the breast. So you'll find that when you're in town, certainly, type of cake, even with a nipple. So, you can't make this stuff up. It just happens through hundreds of years of tradition.
Absolutely. And since we're talking about sweets, there is one cannolo festival that I think is known worldwide. That is the Cannolo Festival of Piana degli Albanesi. Tell us why this festival is so much more than just dessert.
Yes, of course. So first of all, to orient us, Piana degli Albanesi is about 25 kilometers from Palermo, so not a far away. But here is where we believe the cannolo was first invented by the nuns in the convent. And of course, the cannolo in Sicily is a traditional sheep's milk ricotta cream in the center. So it's different than what you're going to find on a street in New York, for example. In America, we might call it a cannolo, but it's rare that you're going to get that sheep's milk ricotta, lightly sweetened. And one of the main things you want to know about a cannolo is you never want to buy one pre-filled. So in Sicily, they're going to have the shell that's perfectly crisp, and they're made to order. They're going to fill the cannolo right there in front of you with the sheep's milk ricotta. Maybe they're going to put some chocolate chips or an almond peel on the end, and it's going to be crisp when you bite into it. And so this tradition is believed to have started here in this town. This is a unique town. It was created in the 15th century by refugees who were trying to get away from Albania when it was being invaded by the Ottomans. So they brought their religion, their Orthodox religion over, and their Byzantine Christian heritage. So you'll find some interesting churches in town. It's a little bit different than what you find in the rest of Sicily, but it's an absolutely incredible tradition. And of course, it's not just about the cannolo. There's processions, there's falconieri with their falcons in the procession, lots of stuff for kids to enjoy, for adults to enjoy, and really for families to just cherish these incredible memories that you'll create visiting the festivals.
And then if I can find some pictures of what it's really beautiful is also the costumes that the
Yes.
people will be wearing. These very precious fabrics, very colorful. And again, from the little babies to the elderly and heavily embroidered. Let me see. And that is also some strong pride that we see in costumes that I see in Sardinia as well, in Molise. That's when the true beauty comes out because again, these costumes might have been passed on from generation to generation. So obviously, we could be talking about, let me see, do we want to add something about the Feast of San George in Ragusa, Ibla?
Yes, I do. I do love Ragusa. Actually, that area in Val di Noto is one of my favorite areas in all of Italy. And so in Ragusa, they celebrate St. George, San Giorgio, and they celebrate that in Ragusa Ibla, which is the old town. It was actually destroyed with the earthquake that happened in the 1600s in Sicily. They rebuilt it back. And it's another incredible festival. You just really get to feel the whole town come alive. They proceed with St. George on his horse. The guys carry him around town. They make him dance as they work their way around. And it's just another incredible Sicilian religious tradition. It's also, a community and folkloristic tradition at this point after being celebrated for thousands of years. So it's incredible.
So tell us a little bit about your wonderful collection of guides that will help the traveler to discover all these wonders. How did the idea came about? I don't know if that you were already into a similar line of business or your discoveries were so precious and so rich that you just couldn't but write
That
about them.
That is the truth. I found myself having to go to all these different places to figure out how to visit a town and visit a festival. And I decided I wanted a one place where a person could go. They could get the walking tour of town for the sites they need to see. They could figure out where to stay, how long to stay, get restaurant recommendations, know things that are nearby that they can visit. And then also the history, the rich history of these towns, as well as the festivals. And so it started just, I wanted to document the festivals. I feel like they're not documented anywhere. They, to me, are almost a UNESCO level heritage that isn't well documented. And so I thought I want to document the festivals, but I also want to make it easy for travelers to arrive at these festivals because if you don't speak Italian, it's impossible to go to these websites and even figure out what's happening. And so I wanted to help people organize about how to go. The festival may start in the evening. You've got all day. So what do you want to visit during the day? And so yeah, that's my passion. And I started with Sicily. And then after I got the bug for sort of doing all this documentation, all the festivals that we visited and included in our travels over the years, I started making one of these books, like I said, for each region. And every time, we get to go to all the festivals and document them. It's an incredible experience for me. And I love being with the locals when they're celebrating their most important day of the year. So it's incredible. Yeah. So I've got Puglia, Umbria, Rome, and Lazio. I've got Venice and the Veneto, Milan and Lombardy, and
Mhm,
Sicily.
mhm.
I'm also working on Tuscany now. So maybe by Christmas time, we'll see if I can get it all done by then. But yeah, so one a year is about what I can accomplish.
Well, it is very, yes. So asking you what is your memory, but I was wondering if there is any story, a favorite story of a local resident who welcomed you into a festival that is still vivid in your mind?
Yeah, one town is Scicli. This is in Sicily, not far from Noto. It's further south. One of the great things about Scicli is you're 30 minutes from Pozzuoli, and that's where you catch the 90-minute ferry to go to Malta. So what we did is we flew into Sicily, we stayed there for 3 weeks, and then at the end, we just took a ferry down to Malta and flew home from Malta. So that's one of the great things about Scicli. It's near the southern coast of Sicily. We went into town for the Festa of the Madonna of the Military, Madonna della Milizia. This is a celebration. At one point in their past, the Madonna arrived on horseback with a sword to scare the Turks away when the Turks were going to invade, saved the town. They've been celebrating her since then. And the locals, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say we were the only English-speaking people there. They were so surprised to see us. And they would say, come sit by us. Tell us how you heard about this festival. Why are you here? And it was just such an incredible experience. One of the things about the festivals is a lot of times there's an associated food that's only for that day. And in Scicli, they have the testa del turco, or the head of the Turk, which is a pastry. I want to call it kind of like a cream puff, but they have a competition that day to see who can make the best testa del turco. And some of them are like as big as your head, and some of them are just the size of a regular cream puff. But just to go around and find that special festival food and try it on its day, for me is also an incredible experience. So I always include the foods defined when you're in town for that festival, because Scicli it's just an incredible Baroque town. Another surprise there, you probably know Montalbano. Montalbano is a very big pop culture Sicilian. He's the police
Inspector, yes.
yeah, police inspector in a town in Sicily. And one of the really interesting things is they filmed a lot of that in Ragusa and Scicli. Well, in Scicli, you can go visit his office and the mayor's office. And when you're in town, it looks like you're on the set because they did so much filming there. I almost felt like I had been there before I even went, because it felt so familiar because I had seen it on that TV show for years and years. So Scicli's also got this incredible thing where they had their church and fortress up on the hill that's right above town. And it's quite a hill. It's sort of a cliff. And they built that church up there for protection. And they all lived in the caves. So when you're walking up to this church, you can see the cave dwellings where they lived until 1950. I mean, until they really moved the town down to the main town. And a funny story, because they built the new church in the valley after the Turkish invasions and all of that was done in the 1850s. And they really wanted to start having mass and every baptisms, marriages, everything down in town. It's a beautiful church, by the way, but the locals didn't want to give up their church up above. So the church had to take the roof off of that magnificent church on the top of the hill that's like from the 400s to get them to stop using it, because they kept fighting and fighting about it. But now they're putting the roof back on to preserve the site. There's frescoes. We went inside with our tour guide. It was accidentally left unlocked by the construction workers. And we let ourselves in, and it was magnificent, in a mess, but still magnificent. And so they're putting the roof back on. I'm so happy because it'll make it a really nice tourist spot. But even just to go up there and see the views of the ocean off in the distance, the views of the new Scicli, from 1700. And so it's just really incredible. It's a beautiful town, and they made me feel so welcome there. Like, also in Umbria, also in the small towns like Ferentino around Rome. It's just incredible. They just sweep you in like you're part of the family, and give you all of the information you need about festivals. Oh, thanks for bringing up my website. Yeah, KaterinaFerrara.com.
Because in addition to the guidebooks, the series, you have the blog, you have the also your podcast, where you also give historical information about the territory. And then additional ideas about day trips, or as I said, Tivoli is one of them. I'm sure also Viterbo, the Castelli, as we have talked about. And so it's just an amazing way of indeed wanting to discover Italy and also be with the locals. So I highly recommend that people do spend time on Katerina's website. Look also the guides. You have also tours. sign up for the blog, listen to the podcast, so that the nice thing is that once you have that, what we call infarinatura, you have a little bit of the historical background that allows you to understand a little more why that Pope was so critical, for instance, in L'Aquila and that one church, or some other things that will put things into context.
Yeah, because sometimes I'll say, how can this small town have this incredible church? Well, then you find out, yeah, the town's history really lays it out. And so, yeah, I do think that that town history, the town overview is really important to kind of understand what's there. And there are so many undiscovered towns. I would say the most underrated region is certainly Umbria for me, because you can go from town to town with their castles and their churches, and everybody's just going to work, going to school, and then you're the only tourist there. And we love those small towns even more than the big ones with the million sites. We'd rather go to a small one with 100 sites. So
Yes. So just to sum up, what is the one that you prefer as far as best food festival? Or maybe the organization or the food because you particularly care for that food?
yeah, so one of the things about the food festivals is they're often bringing money into that town to help schools or local things that the community needs. And so I want to mention a small town, the small town of Turi in Puglia, and their cherry festival, the Ferrovia cherry. The legend has it that this cherry tree grew along the Ferrovia, Ferro Iron Via Road, the railway. And they started this festival. Their cherries are delightful, just bursting with flavor. This is the main event that brings tourists into this town. And I think the small town Sagre are really so precious that I wanted to include that one as my favorite food festival.
Mhm. The most beautiful religious procession?
I think I would probably religious procession. I think I'm going to have to go back to Santa Lucia because she's this giant silver Santa Lucia reliquary. But also, I will say in Ferentino, they have a festival of Sant'Ambrogio. And this year they just redid Sant'Ambrogio
Mhm.
and he looks magnificent. And so I will say Sant'Ambrogio and Ferentino. Ferentino is in Lazio, southeast of Rome. So it's a smaller town, but stunning, another stunning
Uh,
town.
what do you think of the festival with the friendliest locals?
Really, anything in Sicily, I found to be the towns just absorb you into their family. They're so proud of their festivals. Now, one of the things I will say is use your Italian. A lot of times you're in these small towns, you're not going to run into, a lot of people that want to, necessarily speak in English with you. So it is a great opportunity to use your Italian, certainly.
Wonderful. The best festival for photographers. A lot of people are Instagrammers. They love pictures. So which one would you recommend?
There are art festivals and jazz festivals and music festivals, but I think the Infuriata, whether it's Genzano, Noto, because the flower art is so bright and vibrant, and the fact that it just lasts, 24 to 48 hours, it makes it a really unique time to photograph those festivals. They're beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And just to see
Yeah.
them putting it together with the little seeds and all the flower petals and making this art, it's magnificent.
I don't know if I'm correct or mistaken, but I thought Spello had
Spello has an
another.
incredible Infuriata. Yes, they do. And that's in Umbria.
And a festival you would return to tomorrow.
Oh, all of them. They're all so close to my heart. Um, I'm going to say probably Ragusa is one of my favorites, San Giorgio. Just the town is so stunning. And, the way the music and the tamburi and all of the music just vibrates off the Baroque buildings. It just, yeah, it gives you goosebumps. It's incredible.
Wonderful. Is there anything else, Katerina, that we should have mentioned that we haven't, or you would like to share with our audience?
I would just say, if anybody has any questions about how to include a festival, my website has a contact me page. I'm always happy to help people get organized. Or if you're going to Italy at a certain time and you want to know from me, where can I go? What festival can I include? I'm happy to do that because I'm always researching for either books I've written or future books. So I'm always happy to talk about the festivals. And I just really thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Well, it just we're very much like-minded in a way that your work, as well as my philosophy, is to show in Italy that it's not just a destination; it's a living culture, And indeed, these events is where everything comes to life, from the bigger cities with the Carnevale di Venezia to the
Yeah.
smaller ones, that sense of pride and that comes out. And it's just unique, in addition to really tasting amazing food at their peak of their season, because there is nothing better than eating the cherries when it's time to eat cherry
Yeah.
and figs or other products. Unfortunately, dear audience, our time together with Caterina is up, and il Big Ben ha detto stop, and it's time for us to say arrivederci e alla prossima. We want to thank you for tuning in into the program, and if you have any questions or comments, or if you have any topics you would like us to address, please contact us at italianradiohour@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And remember, if you or any of your family and friends have missed a prior episode or would like to listen to this episode again, subscribe to the Italian Radio Hour on YouTube, where you catch your favorite podcasts. And also, don't forget to share this podcast, because sharing is caring. So I would like to thank again Caterina for being with us and giving us amazing ideas on how to turn your trip into a journey that is going to make an impact on your experience of Italy. Our sponsor is Istituto Monte Italiano and La Prima Espresso. And until next time, alla prossima. Ciao ciao.
Ciao, ciao, grazie.